Fear
Isn't the
is
great
proof
temple
of a
majestic?
degenerate mind.
Keeping an eye on things, Horatius?
As always, priestess.
Any news about Scintilla, Navia, or Kabash?
No sign of any of them, I'm afraid. But we do have a newcomer. Strangely dressed fella.
A traveler from a faraway land, then?
Seems that way.
Then let's make sure he feels welcome, shall we?
Of course, priestess.
Feeling all right? Oh no. Sorry, I don't mean to worry you, but no, that is definitely not normal. There was one other person who claimed she could hear the statues talking to her. But that was Navia, and she went a little mad. Well, she used to run the clinic. She was a midwife, not a physician, but she was the closest thing we had down here. And until she suddenly lost. This changes everything. And then she's been, but he's become so. You did? That's unexpected. But tell me, what is it? Willowback. I should have known. I have some. Thank you. I'm ready. That's a shame. Thanks again for saving you.
A new face. Ave, and may Vesta watch over you. I'm Equitia. To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit? Interesting. I'm not sure. Yes, I suppose that could be something. But then most of us do tend to carry coins on our person, don't we? What else? That's true. I know I wasn't entirely sure how I wound up here. What else? Yes, I understand many of our... Let me ask you this. Did you happen to catch her name? I see. And was this Karen, by any chance, wearing a hood? Because I've seen her before. There's something I think you should see. I think you'd better follow me to the baths. But don't follow too closely. We can't have people thinking we're bathing together. All right, you're here. You were asking how I knew the young woman you met by the river was wearing a hood. Here, look down at the bottom of the baths. It's a little hard to make out in this light. If only we could see. Oh, what a marvelous lamp. But do you see it? Somebody waking up by a river in a forest to find a hooded figure with a coin. It's just as you described it, only your pronunciation is a little off. The name you heard wasn't Charon. It was C-H-A-R-O-N, as in Charon, the ferryman of the dead. Charon, who, in exchange for the right coin, helps the souls of the newly deceased cross the Styx, the river that separates the land of the living from the land of the dead.
When I dragged you out of the river, I thought you were never gonna wake up. I checked your pockets for ID, but all I found was some loose change. Feels like I've spent my whole life in a dead-end job with an endless commute. Sorry if I sounded cagey, it's just that I don't always get the best reactions when I introduce myself. My name's Karen.
I'm so sorry, my friend. I'm so sorry. I take it you know what this means. I'm afraid so. It's all starting to make sense. All these people whose last memory was running from the fires toward the river. It seems none of them escaped with their lives after all. Perhaps we should be grateful they don't remember their final moments. It also tells us that the Golden Rule is the work of Pluto, the god of the underworld, and why his epithet has always been Father of Riches. I know it's a lot to take in, and you look as if you have questions, so I'll try to answer them if I can. That was my first thought too. In the old stories, the underworld was where the souls of the deceased were taken. But it was also possible for the living to reach it without dying, if they were particularly fearless. So I'm afraid I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting you're not from here. If you were Roman, or even Greek, you would know these stories. Each of them is slightly different, whether the storyteller was Plato, Homer, Virgil, or Ovid. But they always involved the souls of the dead meeting a grim ferryman named Charon on the bank of a river. It was said that he'd help the new arrival cross, only if they could pay him with a coin, an obol. That's why it was once our custom to bury our loved ones with a coin in their mouths. Charon's obol, we called it. Of course, an obol was a kind of Greek coin, because we inherited this knowledge from the Greeks. The only difference is that they spelled it with a kappa, which I suppose means K-H-A-R-O-N is closer to the original spelling. To be fair, the ferryman isn't exactly as the poets described, and he, she, they seem to appear to different people in different guises. You say you saw a young woman named Karen with a hood, and I once heard Kabash mention a stranger in a ram headdress named Kerti, and Rufius described meeting a stranger named Kumut Tabal wearing an eagle headdress. But whatever form this stranger took, they were always wearing a hood of some sort, and their name always began with a K sound. I suspect the only way you'll solve this riddle is if your paths cross again. Good question. Let's see. In the stories, Charon would always require a coin as payment for passage across the river. But that never made any sense to me. What does an ancient immortal being need with coins? In our case, it seems Charon didn't take the coins we had. He or she merely checked we had one in our possession. So, maybe there's something special about the coins each of us had on us. That might explain why we wound up here, but so many others did not. No. I mean, I had my suspicions, especially after Livia's ramblings, but I would never have figured it out without your help, I promise you. Now that we know where we are, we have to figure out what to do about it, if we don't want to be cast into gold for eternity. We don't have much to go on, except the old stories. I remember 4 in particular about heroes in the underworld. Hercules, the demigod and son of Jupiter, Orpheus, a Thracian poet, Sisyphus, a king of Ephyra, and Aeneas, a Trojan hero. Hercules was able to leave the underworld because he cowed its god with his strength. Sisyphus and Orpheus both relied on their wits instead. They persuaded the goddess of the underworld, Proserpina, to help them escape. And finally, Aeneas was able to escape with the help of a spirit guide, who led him through a secret gate. So it seems you have two options: to confront the god of the underworld head-on, or find a way to escape with the help of Proserpina or some other guide. All Romans try to avoid saying it, and the reason is quite simple. He might hear us. You may refer to him as Pluto, if you wish, but you'll only be calling attention to yourself. Do so at your own peril. Shh! Is everyone so blunt where you're from? Oh. That option would be the boldest, but also the only way to learn the truth about the Golden Rule, and maybe even put an end to it. As I said, Hercules managed to overpower the god of the underworld, but he was a demigod. Forgive my candor, but you are no Hercules. Are you telling me that you can? I won't pretend to understand exactly what that means, but if that's true, then perhaps you stand a chance. So, if you want to confront him, I'll help you as much as I can. Who knows? Perhaps your name will be uttered in the same sentence as Hercules one day. But first, you'd need an audience with you-know-who, and for that, you'll need to enter the great temple overlooking the city. The problem is, the door has been sealed shut for as long as I've lived here, and there doesn't even seem to be a keyhole. I suspect the answer lies in the desecrated obelisk in front of it. I'm not sure if you noticed, but there are 4 plaques missing from its base. It looks as though somebody, or a series of somebodies, forcibly removed them, and in doing so, dishonored and angered our divine keeper. If you could recover and replace all 4 of those missing plaques, I imagine he might be willing to receive an audience again. It's the towering stone monument with 4 sides and a pyramid-shaped head that stands before the great temple, a dedication to the god of this place. You'll find them all over Rome, but of course they were looted from Egypt many years ago. It seems one of them made its way here too, although how is a mystery. However, this one is unusual in that each of the 4 sides is decorated in a different style: Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and another I don't recognize. That means you'll need to recover 4 different plaques: Roman, Greek, Egyptian, and a 4th, a mystery plaque. Good question. To answer that, we first need to ask who would have defaced the obelisk in the first place. It would have had the god's name engraved into it, so it may be that whoever desecrated it wanted that name to be forgotten. And there's only one group of people I know of who might want to do that. There's a cult in Rome that often argued there is only one true god. Theirs, of course. They've been known to start fires, as well as deface religious monuments whose existence challenged their beliefs. If I were you, I'd go looking for them. Of course, they've all been in hiding since the fire last year, so finding them won't be easy. But I did hear a rumor they have a secret shrine somewhere in the city. Perhaps, if you could find that, you might be able to recover the Roman plaque. I don't know. But perhaps you should begin your search with the local Greek fellow, Georgius. His store is in the Forum. Perhaps Kabash, our Egyptian resident, would be able to tell us. Unfortunately, he disappeared weeks ago. But I did hear Aurelia is peddling rumors about him at the tavern, so Perhaps you could talk to her, or just take a look in his room. I'm afraid you're on your own with that one, but perhaps finding the other three will illuminate the way. As I mentioned, both Orpheus and Sisyphus were said to have persuaded Proserpina to help them escape, and Aeneas was guided to the exit. The problem is, those are the stories of a poet, a self-aggrandizing king, and a brawler about their own heroic deeds, so they should be taken with a grain of salt. First, Proserpina. What we do know about her is, well, it's a grim tale. It's said the god of the underworld abducted and dragged her here against her will, forcing her into marriage. If the stories are true, then I suppose so. The problem is, how do we communicate with her without being noticed by her captor? Leaving that aside for a moment, there is also the possibility of a spirit guide. I don't suppose you've come across one of those in your travels? Truly? And you're only bringing this up now? Then again, I suppose you were worried I'd think you were as mad as Navia. Can you tell me more? Is it the same voice? What kinds of thing does it say? Fascinating. Perhaps she's a benevolent spirit. Or perhaps... Perhaps you're hearing the voice of Proserpina herself. If she has indeed been abducted, it would make sense for her to speak in cryptic whispers to avoid detection. Tell me, has she told you anything that might lead you to the way out? That is strange. There are no rivers here. Let me think on that. Right, because the current flows into the city through the aqueduct and into the upper cistern. I vaguely recall wondering what was in there, but the door at the back of the great temple is locked up tight. You might be able to get a key from the magistrate, but if that doesn't work, perhaps you can find another way in. Let me know if you find anything in there. All right. I would suggest not discussing this with anyone. The best we can do for them is to let them remain oblivious for as long as possible. As for Livia, it seems she's been shouldering the weight of this terrible secret all this time. Perhaps it would comfort her to know she's not alone. In any case, time is of the essence, so you'd best begin. May Fortuna guide you. Although you may not need her with Proserpina on your side.
Just as the ocean accepts the rivers of all the world, So this place accepts all the souls, but it does not notice the crowds that come. Say it. Speak its name. Then it is true. I was right. I thought I saw it, but when the rest of them could not, I kept thinking I must have gone insane. I had to tell myself it was true over and over again, until I wasn't sure if I was deceiving myself. I must apologize if my words seemed cryptic. I'd found comfort in reciting the Metamorphoses by our great poet Ovid. He gives such an uncanny description of this place. I cannot help but wonder if he himself came here. Would you like to hear it? I will do my best to remember the relevant verse. There is a downward path, gloomy with fatal yew trees. It leads through dumb silence to the infernal regions. The sluggish Styx exhales vapor, and by that way, the shadows of the newly dead descend, entombed with full rites, and the ghosts of those, at last, given proper burial. The wide, thorny waste is cold and pallid, and the newly arrived shades are ignorant of the road that leads to the Stygian city, where Black Dis has his cruel palace. As the ocean accepts the rivers of all the world, so this place accepts all the souls, and is never too small for any populace, nor notices the crowds that come. There the bloodless shadows wander without flesh or bone. Some crowd the forum, some the house of the ruler of the depths. Others follow their trades, imitating their previous lives, and still others incur punishment. I hope I have done it justice, and now we share a secret. It's as if you've lifted a great burden from my shoulders. Thank you, friend. I think I should rest.
Shalom. I feel like I've looked everywhere. At least everywhere I could get to. There are still 2 places I've never been able to reach. First, the palace. If Navia managed to get in, then I suppose Scintilla could have too. The only other place she could be is somewhere in the Cistern network. I remember hearing that Dooley had been poking around in the upper cistern before he was locked up. So you could ask him about it, I suppose. All right, friend. Thanks for the chat.